Welcome to the Penfield Meet the Candidates Night. I am Sherry Johnson, and I will be your moderator. Tonight's program is sponsored by the Indian Landing PTO and the Penfield School District PTAs. This year, the annual budget vote and school board election will be held on Tuesday, May 17th. Residents may vote from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. at Penfield High School. Members of boards of education hold a unique public trust. They are elected officials, however, they serve without pay and devote hundreds of hours to their duties. This community depends on its school board to provide for the education of the community's children, to see that the property and finances of a district are properly managed, and to ensure that many laws governing education are followed. Changes in education and law and financing make this a challenging time to serve on a board of education. This year, 2 candidates are running for 2 seats on the board. They are both incumbents, and they are John Piper and Barbara Babiarz. Tonight's program will last no longer than 2 hours or until we run out of questions, and each candidate will give an opening statement up to 3 minutes long. Then I will ask them questions which have been submitted from the people in the audience. Questions will be directed to the candidates in rotating order so that each person will have opportunity to speak first, but all candidates will answer each question, and answers should not exceed 2 minutes. A timekeeper in the audience will hold up a card to let you know when 30 seconds remain, and another when it's time to stop. There are people in the room distributing cards for questions from the audience. Please write your questions down and hand them back to the ushers, who will give them to me. Questions can be addressed to all candidates or to a single candidate, but in that instance, each candidate gets an opportunity to answer the question. As moderator, I have the discretion to combine similar questions or rule out irrelevant, inappropriate, repetitious, or abusive questions, and my decision will be final. As we come to the end of the meeting, candidates will be able to make a closing statement of not more than 2 minutes. So I will leave it to Barbara. Why don't you make your opening statements?
Okay. First of all, I need to tell you, this seat is very, very low. I really am much taller, but for you out there who are wondering. Okay. And now I begin. Good evening. I am Barbara Larkin Babiarz, and I'm seeking to be reelected to the Penfield Board of Education for a 3-year term that begins this July 1st. First of all, I want to thank the Indian Landing PTO for hosting the Meet the Candidates Night, as well as Sherry Johnson for being our moderator. For those of you who don't know me, I am married to Jim, and we have a daughter, Megan, who is a 2008 graduate of Penfield High School and is currently a speech-language pathologist in the Pittsford School District. In 1961, when my dad was transferred to Rochester for his job, it was my parents who chose to live in Penfield, with one of the deciding factors being the excellent school system. I am a product of that Penfield education, and when the time came for Jim and I to settle our own family, we chose Penfield. I feel that in my 9 years on the Penfield School Board, I have been a capable part of a team that oversaw a successful facilities project, installed a strong visionary for Penfield's current superintendent, worked extensively to maintain quality education programming while being fiscally responsible, as well as working hard to facilitate accurate and thorough communication between all of our district stakeholders. Wanting to continue to be an active member of this process, I chose to run for a 4th term. In terms of what qualifications I bring to this position, I am now a retiree, almost 2 years, from a 38-year career of working in the special education field. I have an understanding of most of the mandates that affect the education process, and I am a firm advocate of the board's current goals with my definite support of how we as a district support the whole student in their education experience. Both my husband and I are now retired, so I feel a direct tie with others in our district community who are now on fixed incomes. I always laugh about that because I'm still new to that, but I certainly understand it now. And how those, what we do as a board impacts the yearly budget and then the subsequent tax bill. Speaking of finances, I believe that the process that the Board of Education and the district administrators have put in place to seek out the school district community stakeholders, administrators, teachers, students, parents, and all taxpayers by using online surveys, communication on education workshops, PTAs, our HSAs, our PTOs, and our focus groups have been an effective way to balance between district and community needs while preparing the next year's budget. And what I would like to accomplish as I continue on the board, I would like to see that the Penfield School Board continue to hold our education responsible in educating our school-age citizens to take their academic achievements and become contributing citizens not only locally, but in our state and nation as well. I would continue to work in tandem with administrators, local and state school board associations to encourage mandate relief that would serve to reduce taxes on the local budgets. Thank you.
John, your turn.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is John Piper, and I'm seeking a third three-year term on the Penfield Board of Education. I'd like to thank Indian Landing PTO and Sherry. My twins who are graduating this year attended this school, and I love coming back here anytime I can. My first 6 years on the board and serving this year as board president has been an extraordinary opportunity during a time that state entities continuously challenge our mission of educating our children. Every day I continue to learn more about education and the critical role it plays in our community. Service on a school board is not just about conducting business in a professional manner. It is about leading an institution that makes a meaningful difference in the lives of children. Effective school boards choose what is vital over what is immediate, see the future and not just the present, and advocate for the greater good over individual interests. The challenges of the past 6 years have been unprecedented and show no signs of letting up. The so-called 2% tax cap, teacher performance, curriculum mandates, and the ongoing policy changes have been in the spotlight. What state officials have failed to recognize is that all school districts are not equal and one size does not fit all. During the period of time prior to the tax cap, our average tax rate hike averaged 1.8%. During the period prior to teacher performance, both our teachers and administration always worked together to measure performance. And during the period prior to the Common Core, our staff and volunteer parent groups collaborated to maintain quality, challenging curriculum for our students. Penfield has continued to be a high-performing school district and continues to improve as one of the top 3 academically achieving school districts in our region. I am pleased to live in a district where the teachers and the supporting staff are regarded as the best in the region. Unlike other $90 million organizations in Rochester, our goal is not to produce products, it's to produce well-rounded, successful whole students. Balance in all of our actions as an elected school district officials has never been more crucial. Our stakeholders, property owners, students, staff, and community partners must work collaboratively to maintain value in the work we perform. This includes being a participant in issues that have a direct impact on our district in terms of growth and space. Value in maintaining and continuing to improve our district. Value in the direct correlation that schools provide to home values in our district. And value in what we will continue to provide to children entering kindergarten through high school this fall. The continued challenges that will be delivered to us from the Education Department must be viewed as opportunities for the future. An outstanding education blended with quality arts and athletic opportunities will continue to be the board's goal as we move forward. School boards play a vital role in student achievement. Research has repeatedly found that a set of common characteristics shared by a school board make a difference. At the root of these characteristics is the understanding of the value of the practice of good governance. This is crucial, and I will work with our other school board members to continue this practice as we create the foundation for our children's future.
Thank you. So I've taken the questions that have been given to me, and I've divided them into 3 categories currently.
Okay.
So I have board service, and I have students, teachers, curriculum instruction and achievement, and then finances. So Barbara, you'll get the first question, and then John will answer after, and then I'll rotate back to John.
Okay.
So the first question came in several questions. What do you personally feel should be the district's biggest focus for the next 3 years?
The next 3 years, the biggest focus, well, number one, we are in the business of education, so to maintain quality education for all of our students, I think should be the number one without question. And when I say all of our students, I truly mean all of our students, whether there are special needs or they are, high academic achievers. We have the responsibility to maintain quality education for all. In terms of other things that we need to focus on, maintaining the professional development opportunities for our educators, because things are changing all the time, and we need to make sure that our educators in our Penfield schools are given every opportunity to be able to take the opportunities to advance their own education, their own things that they'd like to see happen for their students. And the last thing that I think that I see as a 3-year commitment is in terms of something we may not have any control over, and that's housing developments that could be impacting facility changes.
Thank you. John?
I would say first, my first one would be culture trumps all in an organization. So I think the culture from the top down through every teacher or every employee of the district has to be a strong one, and that's only led by the board and the superintendent. I think it's important that we add resources and find resources to make sure our programs can continue. I think it's also important that we eliminate state mandates that take money away from our students and from our programs. And lastly, I think it's very important that we recognize that our ongoing goals to meet all of the above will be legislative. Getting our legislators, and in particular our chief executive officer, the governor, to understand that public schools are the primary schools under the Constitution of New York, and they should be fully funded.
Thank you. The next question is a finance question, and we'll ask John first. How can New York State help schools be more cost-effective?
Well, they can help us in a lot of ways. First of all, they could streamline the process that is out there for adding, building, or putting an addition on a school. Currently, if we started today with a plan to renovate Indian Landing, we'd be able to probably get that approved in about 13 months with New York State. So it's simple math. If they can streamline that process, it will help us. During the period of time with our last project, our costs tended to go up between 5 and 10% because of the delays from New York State. And these are costs that all of us in the community pay. So I think it's important that the state recognize that they can help us by streamlining various activities that they do and helping us with the funding when we need it, not 13 months later.
Thank you. Barbara?
I like his answer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Because SED was a big issue for us, at least the last 6 years that I've been on the board, that it took forever to get things done. As a matter of fact, we're just getting something done that should have been done over a year ago because SED took forever to approve it. In addition to that, I think the state really needs, meaning the legislators as well as the executive branch, needs to look more to the people who are going to be involved in the mandates that they're setting up. From what I have learned, very often no administrators in a district or even school boards were approached to how this would impact their particular district in terms of mandate being passed down from the legislature.
Thank you. Next question, and Barbara, you will get this one first. What are your views on gifted and talented education and enrichment programs?
I'm trying to find a very outstanding adjective to use. To me, that is part of the whole student that I feel that the board has put out there with one of their goals, with our academic excellence goal. They deserve everything that we can offer, and as long as I will be on the board, it would remain a true and constant thing of support.
Okay, John?
I've had kids go through and obviously be a part of that. I think our goal is to meet the needs of all students, and all students are in different levels of need. So we have programs such as, gifted and talented. We have response to intervention. We have different programs that, as Barb mentioned, will bring everybody to become the whole student that's necessary. So certainly it's a critical part, and certainly some kids are ready for something more than other kids. But again, our goal is to educate everyone as much as we can, knowing that there are specific things that will be targeted towards other kids.
Thank you. Okay, back to a board service question. During your time that you've served on the board, what developments in the district or changes in the district are you most proud? And this time, John gets to answer first.
Wow, there's a lot of things, but I think, and this is really the board more than myself, but I'm very proud that we've been able to put in place a superintendent that has the same values as the board, believes in the same culture setting as the board, and in just a very short time has changed a lot of how our district looks and how it acts. So I would say that's probably the biggest thing. It was a major undertaking, as we all know, to change superintendents, but and a lot of work, but I think the result is just incredible that we've achieved. So I'd say that was probably number one.
Thank you. Barbara?
Again, I hope I don't sound like a broken record, but I am extremely, extremely proud of the fact that this board was able to put into the academic excellence goal the whole student, because having been in the special ed field for 38 years, I was very excited for my students who maybe in the big picture, it was a very small accomplishment, but it was their accomplishment, and that was their whole student. So that was their academic excellence. And when we adopted that piece and then put it out there that it is a district goal, that to me, I still get goosebumps about that. And I'm very, very excited that we're doing that, and that the superintendent, along with his educational team, are fostering that. The other thing that I'm most proud about is how this board, and it has evolved, is so good as a collaborative, working collaboratively. I think other districts are very, I don't know if I'm using the right word, envious when we go to do things with Monroe County School Boards, that we're always there supporting each other. And that, I'm very proud of that.
Thank you. Next question, and I believe, Barbara, you get to go first. Would you support in-service training for teachers and counselors to respond effectively to the unique needs of gay, lesbian, and transgender students?
Yes. Yes, I would.
Okay. John?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. That answers that question.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, John, can you give some examples of what the board has done to keep taxes below the 2% tax cap?
Well, it hasn't been hard because we've always done that. So really, the examples are, we have a tremendous staff and a tremendous financial operations staff, and I think the examples we look at are that no stone goes unturned when we look at a budget. We don't assume things are always going to be the same. We are also going to always look out 5 years. So as a board, having the right people to inform us, we're not experts on finance. Some of us may know a little bit more than others, but we're not experts. But we rely on the individuals that supply us information. So I think, to pin down the answer, there's a number of things that we look at, and it's constantly looking at, number one, what impacts our students the most, and we don't want to impact those that face our students the most, and those are our teachers and our teachers' aides. So we've been able to find ways other than personnel to keep numbers lower, and everything is looked at all the time. So I think it's important that we use the zero-based concept when we look at things, and we don't assume anything's going to carry over.
Thank you. Barbara?
Well, pretty much what he said. But I also know that for us, when it is budget time, and we do need to be cognizant to be fiscally responsible, because we are the stewards for our community, is that for a long time, Mark has always referred to us that we're in the people business. And so that when we are trying to be responsible stewards, we also have to be responsible to the people that work for us. So it's hard, but we've done it.
Okay, thank you. Next question, Barbara. In what ways do you as an individual board member gather input from district residents?
Well, I am, one of my favorite things to do is to be going to the school board, not the school board, I am the school board, sorry. The PTAs, the PTOs, the HSAs. I go to the Booster Club meetings. And I'd love to introduce the concerts. And I'm always been approachable, and if people needed to email me or call me or Facebook, that's fine. I've always been able to then, if someone had a specific concern, to direct them to where they should go up the chain. I'm not the first person they should talk to, so I've always encouraged that.
Thank you. John?
I think it comes down to two things. Anything you go to, arrive early so you can talk to people, and stay late so you can talk to people. I personally enjoy going to the events that Barb mentioned, but I had a personal goal that I have not yet met. It'll take a long time. I'm trying to get to every athletic event that our school offers. And that's where you can meet a group of people that you may never have seen before. And but but again, not primarily athletics, but also concerts, as Barb mentioned. But I think the key is be willing to dedicate the time and be able to listen when you are with our constituents.
All right. Okay, next question, John. There have been some concerns in regards to student suicide, opiate addiction, and social media bullying in this district and in the media. What has the district done, or what resources will the district implement to help our students, teachers, and parents become more educated on these issues?
Well, the issues you mentioned, I mean, there's no doubt there's an epidemic of heroin in this community. The suicides are up in a lot of areas, not just schools. You know, I think it's something that everyone is dealing with on different levels. In particular, obviously, we have a great response team that we were an original founder of that helps the families, individuals, teachers, and students. And more importantly, I think we need to do more education on those aspects of suicide, on the aspects of drug use. We started this year, but I think we need to have a continual series that will bring that awareness out. You know, with drug use, there's always denial of some form, and I think we can't overcome that as far as parents and other individuals, but we can continue to communicate and provide forums to educate, and I think if we can just educate one more person, one more family, we're doing a great job.
Thank you. Barbara?
Sherry, would you just repeat
Yep,
the
I sure will.
question? Thanks.
There have been some concerns in regards to student suicide, opiate addiction, and social media bullying in this district and in the media. What has the district done, or what resources will the district implement to help our students, teachers, and parents become more educated on these issues?
I agree with everything that John has said, and in addition, I think that as a school board, we have been very, very supportive in terms of maintaining quality counselors, and as well as I know that at one point a few years back we have a contract with Delphi, so we had 2 Delphi counselors, and there was a possibility that those positions were going to be cut. And I know that I, for one, fought very hard for them to stay in, and they are still in the schools as part of our budget. I think that that is another piece that we need to be supportive in terms of that way, because it is our counselors. They are the first line of support within the schools. I think the parent education as well as student education, we need to be more cognizant and be more supportive of having those professional development type things for everybody.
Okay, thank you. So on the subject of staff, this is a retention question. There are 2 elementary schools where the principals have accepted positions as superintendents in other districts. What steps can the district take to be sure good principals fill these open positions and remain committed to their schools?
And that goes to me, right?
Yes, you're first, sorry.
No, that's okay.
I should have said Barbara first.
No. Well, I think we are doing that. And I think as the school board, we keep our hands off. It's not up to us to do the hiring. We only have 1 employee, and we have put full confidence in that employee to make sure that the process is carried out to what is our Penfield standards, which is the very best.
Thank you. John?
Well, I agree. I think we only have 1 employee, and when you're an officer of the board, you do get ongoing conversations with the superintendent about principals and staff, et cetera. And one thing I think is clear in the message that our superintendent has put forth to the board: we want to maintain quality people. We want to encourage quality people to achieve and move up the ranks. We had 2 excellent principals jump to be superintendents, which in any world, business or school, that's a great thing. Sometimes it's hard, though, for internal candidates who work in a certain school to become a principal of that school, because everybody has baggage. And but I think it's our role to make sure that we have the right people, we encourage the right people, and if someone's interested in that, that we continue to help them to achieve their goals professionally. And sometimes when you do that, you end up losing people. But sometimes also they get experience elsewhere and come back, and it works well for you.
Thank you, John. So, John, you get this next question. Should parents get vouchers or tax credits to pay for non-public education?
No.
Okay. Barbara, would you like to answer that question?
That would be no.
All right. Thank you. On to the next one. This is a negotiations question.
Oh, okay.
And Barbara, you get
I
this
get to
one
go
first.
Oh, boy.
So Penfield teachers were without a raise in a negotiated contract for over a year. This caused some stress and concern among teachers and parents. What steps does the board take to prevent a situation where the teacher's contract might lapse again?
Could you just read the last part? What does the
Yes.
board do?
Yes. What steps could the board take in their role to prevent another situation where teachers' contracts lapse?
Well, I think the board did take the role in this last negotiations. We left it up to the superintendent and the union to work it out, and the superintendent came to us, told us how things were going, asked permission to do some things. I think we did what we needed to do.
Okay. Thank you. John?
Well, negotiations, it's two-sided issue, but I think collaboration is the most critical thing. And when you negotiate with any individual or group, I think it's important you get to know who they are. I think you have to have a relationship before there's trust. And I think we do that in this district. I think the one exception was when we did have a contract that went out for a year, but all the elements I just mentioned weren't there. So I think that's an example of why you need them. And again, our role is to advise the superintendent as he is in those negotiations. But if you start it in the right manner with collaboration, negotiation, and trust, I think you never will have a contract that will run over.
Thank you. Okay, John, this question's for you. Do you feel our special education programs, meaning Penfield's, can improve in any way?
Well, I think any program can always improve. We're known as a great special education district. We're known as the destination district for special ed. I've actually, in my private life, worked as a mediator with parents who were unhappy with another school district. And I went with them to that school district, and they didn't know my role, obviously, but I came away from there thinking, oh my God, I'm glad, that's not us. And there's some districts that don't do anywhere near as what we do. So yes, there's always room for improvement. Do we do a great job? Yes. I think that's really the tell is in the fact that more people come to us for that specific need than other districts.
Thank you, John. Barbara?
Absolutely. We can't just maintain what is currently happening, because things are going to be changing, technology is going to be changing, needs of all of our students are going to be evolving and changing every minute. I'm excited for all of the things that I see in terms of our students being more accepting of all that we do offer for our special needs students. And what I mean in terms of that, I know that there's this buddy basketball, is it? I think it is, or I apologize.
Unified.
It's just positive to see that at the high school level, and it is, you see it at all levels, because Penfield does have an inclusive program for their special ed kids. So yes, I see, but it can always improve.
Okay. Next question, Barbara first. Would you support a sexuality education program that teaches abstinence as the only means to avoid pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases?
Okay, could you just, would I support?
Would you support a sexuality education program that teaches abstinence as the only means to avoid pregnancy, sexually transmitted diseases?
Would I support a program? So is it, well, see, now this is where I'm confused. So a program that's coming in to do a presentation, or is it part of our,
I don't know what the writer's intention
Okay.
was, but I'm believing it's a sexuality education program, so it would be what is already being taught maybe in health classes,
okay,
but it would be abstinence only as the means to prevent pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases.
I'm not sure that I would be able to totally, I mean, I think that that's an individual, personal choice, and I don't think that I or the board should have the mandate as to how things are directed down to the educator who is telling the students what to do. I think that's more a family, personal thing.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. John?
No, I think if you presented it in that way with that one notion as being the only outcome, I think it would be too narrow of a view. It would be like taking a math problem and saying there's only one way to do it. And I don't think as schools we should have that option. I think we're about broadening the mind, presenting opportunities, not helping people make a choice, but presenting them with all the opportunities and choices that are out there.
Thank you, John. Next question, John, you're first. Should schools set aside time for prayer in the classroom or at school events?
No, they should not.
Barbara?
No, they should not.
Okay, thank you. I've combined, there are board questions, and I've sort of combined the last three into one. It says you are both incumbents, and the person who wrote this said thank you for your service. You are running unopposed. What are your thoughts about that? And then with that question, what are your unique contributions to the school board? And Barbara, I believe you're first.
Oh, okay, so I apologize.
You're running unopposed. What are your thoughts about that?
Okay.
Running unopposed. And then to follow that, what are the unique contributions that you bring to the school board?
It was not my intention to run unopposed. I would welcome anyone who chose to run for the school board. I think it is something that we need more people being involved and wanting to do that. And in terms of what have I
Unique contributions to
Unique.
the school board.
Well, I am passionate about education. I am determined that Penfield will be as good as it possibly can be. I support that. I support every bit about Penfield education, the arts, the sports, the buildings, fixing the bathrooms, fixing the lead in the water. I think I'm the biggest cheerleader.
Thank you, Barbara. John?
Well, I spend every day trying to find someone to replace me. So, but seriously, I think our goal is to, as a board, to go out and make sure we don't run unopposed. I think it's important. I think in society, as elected officials in general, there's just too much of it. I personally favor term limits for all elected officials, but I think it's the perception of volunteers today is different than it was 20 years ago, and time is the element that comes into play. So I think it's hard for someone to do it. I think time comes into play, and you know, there's different priorities than there were before. So I think that's part of the reason we run unopposed. As far as my unique contribution, one of the last things I ever thought of when I first got on the school board was that I would use 20-plus years of experience as a lobbyist with the New York State Legislature in this position. It just never dawned on me that that would be important. So I brought relationships with a lot of legislators, and as I just mentioned, they've been in there a long time because they're not term limited. And I think that's benefited our organization to be able to connect and talk to a legislator to get a message across. I think the second contribution is I spent most of my career working for a board of directors, so I think knowing my way around a board table has proved to be beneficial to other board members and to the superintendent and to staff, because quite honestly, it's somewhat unique. I mean, we all don't have a lot of board experience. That happened to be my choice, but I think it's important. As I mentioned in my opening statement, I think what we do as a board and how we come about to do things is the most critical part, and that relates to our board governance.
Thank you. Are there any more questions that need to be submitted? Seeing none, I will ask for each of the candidates to make a statement of not more than 2 minutes in closing. And John, this time you get to go first.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you again to everyone that has taken time away from their families tonight, and again to the PTO and to Monroe County School Boards for facilitating this. This is the closest level of government that we get to the constituents in our state. Your being here shows that you care about the quality and excellence that Penfield School District offers. Schools are local assets, appreciated for the education they provide, while also binding the community with a sense of public purpose. We must continually recognize that the value of a well-educated contingent of young people who are prepared to take their rightful place in the community and are capable of addressing the complex challenges that are required in the world today. We must recognize, however, that everyone should have a sense of collaboration and global vision as we continue to provide world-class education for the Penfield Central School District. I believe my experience, my involvement of having 5 kids go through public schools is beneficial, but my experience as a leader in the community has added value to our district and to our board, and it will be an honor to represent the Penfield School District communities for an additional 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Barbara.
My response in closing is this. I want to thank not only Sherry for moderating, but the Indian Landing PTO as well for all that you've done tonight to set this up. Thank you to everyone who came. Thank you to everyone who's watching. And the biggest thing that I would like to leave with all of you is this. It has been my pleasure to be a member of the Penfield School Board. I've done it for 9 years, and having grown up in Penfield, having been a part of the Penfield education system, that to me is something that I always wanted to do, was to give back to my community. And I feel that by using my talents as an educator, I have been able to provide that both to my community and the Penfield School Board as well. So I look forward to the next 3 years, and I'm always available, so thank you very much.
Thank you to both of you. It's my pleasure to have moderated this for the Penfield School District and the Board of Education this evening.